A boy set out to build a house. Young and fearless, he began to gather supplies: wood, nails, metal, and concrete. Alone, and with no one to teach him, he learned by trial and error. But he worked diligently to build a house that he could be proud of. He laid his foundation. It wasn't perfect. It was a little crooked. There were some cracks that allowed a small stream of water in. He took wood he had gathered and began building a frame. Nothing too fancy. Some walls, a floor, a roof. No, it wasn't a mansion, but it was his home, and he was proud of it. And as time grew on, the boy began to grow restless. The house he had built for himself was too small. The cracks in the foundation began to grow, and the plumbing was backing up. Undeterred and filled with vigor, the boy began patching holes and trying to fix the plumbing himself. Not content with the shack that he had built, he began adding rooms and floors, putting in luxury amenities like hot tubs and pools. He was so proud of everything he had accomplished. He stood in his driveway with his arms crossed, observing all that he had built, showing off his home to all who would pass by. One day, a carpenter walked by. In his normal form, the boy, who was now a man, rushed to the passerby to display the glories of his home. And, after learning that the passerby was a carpenter, the man excitedly invited him in. The carpenter was happy to oblige and followed him into the house. The man grabbed the carpenter's arm and pulled him from room to room, showing off the many bedrooms, the sunroom, the pool, the game room, all of it. He spoke about the labors and the pains that he had put into the house. He showed the calluses on his hands and the scars on his bodies that were the result of the effort that he had put into his personal castle. He showed the carpenter his workshop and the tools of his trade. Silently, the carpenter walked about the house with the man until the man finally asked his question. So, what do you think of this house that I have built for myself? A moment of silence was shared between the two of them before the carpenter responded. Are you sure you want me to answer that question? With a measure of confidence, the man responded, Yes, please, tell me. So the carpenter began to speak. He warned that the foundation was in critical condition. He told the young man that the structure above was too great to be supported by the studs. He noted the studs were too far apart to support the upper floor, and the roof was allowing water to seep into the attic. The basement had mold, and the windows were drafty. The face of this man began to sink. There was a range of emotions within him that were moving very quickly. Sorrow, anger, and denial began to surface. And as the carpenter spoke, the man moved to interrupt. Sir, I am sorry that this is the conclusion you have come to, but I believe you're wrong. In fact, I invite you to stay. Allow me to show you the full greatness of my house. There was so much that I was unable to show you. Perhaps, if you stay... Stop, the carpenter replied. Son, you invited me into your house. You showed me the extent of what your labor had achieved. You showed me everything you had accomplished. You showed me the tools of your trade, the tools you have acquired, and the methods you have used. I am very happy that you invited me in, but I cannot stay. But I can help you build a new house. I can give you land. I can pour a foundation for you. I can help you build with proper tools and proper knowledge. I will help you frame, I will help you drywall, and I will help you roof. No, I cannot live here with you. But you can live with me. The young man was quite upset. I mean, how could this traveling bystander come into his house and tell him that it's not right? And after moments of silence, the carpenter put his hands on the shoulder of the young man and spoke quietly in his ear. This place you are living is not safe. If you stay in this house that you have built for yourself, it's only a matter of time before it collapses in on you. I'm glad you invited me in. This place, this home, this castle, it's not what you need. This place is not your legacy. I will help you move. I will help bring you out of this dangerous place. But I will not stay with you. When you are ready, I will be here. The young man's eyes filled with tears as the carpenter walked out of his house. He peered out the window to see the carpenter standing on his front porch, looking in, and longingly waiting for the man to come out. He knew he had a choice. He could stay or go. He had spent years building his house alone, with no help. He knew it wasn't perfect, but it was his. Sure, he said, the foundation may be cracked and the roof may sag, but I built this. With my own 2 hands, I toiled and labored, and I achieved this. But this man, what do I make of him? Sure, I respect and admire him. I certainly desire his company and to be with him. And his knowledge of construction could be very useful. But he expects me to leave. He expects me to leave this place behind, to start over from scratch. I just don't know if I can make that kind of change. My foundations may have cracks, but it is my foundation. Should I replace it for his? Is it worth it to build a house on a foundation he laid for me? Can I trust him with that? For hours and days and weeks and months, the man fought within his thoughts as the carpenter stood waiting on his porch, still peering inside, still waiting, never flinching. The young man took account of what his hands had accomplished. The many rooms, the foundation, the walls, the sagging roof, he counted them all. He closed his eyes, and in a final moment of evaluation, he exhaled. The young man looked out the window at the carpenter. He turned around, and he looked at the product of his lifelong toil. He took a deep breath, and he made his choice. Often I think we look at our Christianity as simply asking Jesus into our lives. But in reality, while Jesus does come in and meet us where we live, and meet us in our moments of weakness, ultimately, he calls us out of the lives that we have built for ourselves. He calls us out of our lives and into his. He calls us to follow him. So the question I have you surrendered your life to Christ? Or are you still held up in your own little world, in your own life, in your own house that you have built by yourself and for yourself? I challenge you today to look at your life and evaluate, who are you living for? Take a deep breath and make your decision. Jesus is waiting for you on the front porch.